Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose with the Examiner, and with us today, the wonderfully talented and awesome voice of the greatest American rock band, as Adam Sandler likes to say, Lawrence Gowan of Styx. How are you doing, man?
Very well, thank you, and thank you for quoting that Adam Sandler classic movie, Big Daddy. That always sets the ball in the right direction.
Absolutely. Well, and he was not wrong, so, you know. But I got to tell you, every time I see you guys, I'm always amazed with the energy and enthusiasm you guys always have on stage. And you especially, you get up there behind that keyboard and you're a madman, and it's so contagious and fun to watch. So it makes me want to ask, you know, for you, when you were growing up, was there sort of a light bulb moment for you, whether it was an album or a concert or something that you saw where you were like, this is what I want to do with my life?
Well, actually, Rustin, I think it's a series of light bulbs, so to speak, you know, and each successive one gets a bit brighter as you begin to realize that it may be achievable, you know. I share the initial light bulb that went on in probably millions of musicians around the world today, whether no matter what style they play, you know, that pivotal moment of seeing Ed Sullivan, the Beatles, and that thing. Even though I was I think I was 7 years old, seeing that was the first of there could be an option for other than being a hockey player. So, you know, that was the first one. But then to get more serious and more realistic, I guess, by the time I was a teenager, seeing, three particular artists, Elton John, you know, what he could do with the piano, Rick Wakeman from Yes, and just seeing what an incredible musician he is, and what he brought to the stage as far as the theatrics that suddenly rock took on, and then of course Freddie Mercury and what's achievable for a piano player who gets to be a frontman occasionally. So I think those three began to were and still are, you know, among the greatest inspirations I've had to want to do this, and then to get a chance to be in a, you know, as you just pointed out, a legendary American rock band, and to have done it now for 14 years is it's still not something I take lightly. I'm very much in touch with that person that I am and that I was, I guess, when I really dreamed of doing something like this.
Right. One gentleman that you didn't mention, but I'm sure he's probably up there for you too. Such an innovator with the sound. We lost John Lord this last week or so.
Oh yeah. I could go on and on about keyboard players that are so inspiring. John Lord, of course. I don't think there was distortion on a B3 before he decided to do it. I don't know whether it was an accident or if he intended it, but it sure was a way to compete with what the guitars were doing and to give the organ a completely different flavor in rock music. And but yeah, so John Lord, of course, is. You know, we toured with Deep Purple a couple of years ago, and throughout the UK, and it was John Lord's setup, but he had retired from the road. I guess he was just beginning to battle his illness, and Ian was playing keyboards for them then, and doing a fantastic job. But I got to, you know, at least play his setup a little bit and get a vibe for what that was like, and it was that was pretty inspiring right there.
Yeah, well, and that's just a sound that nobody else had. It's when you hear people using it now, that's the first thing you think is that is the Lord's setup. So it is, and you know, it's funny because that's, you know, one of the most signature intros to a song to me with that sound in mind is Blue Collar Man, and so, you know, we kick off most shows with that song, and so I get to you know, play that classic riff, and it was so well done on the original Styx record, and yeah, there's definitely we all benefit from the shoulders of the past, and myself definitely I'm well included on that list. Absolutely. Now, it's you sort of alluded to this, but I want to take it a step further because last night Journey happened to be here in town. I saw them, and even after amazing years of performances by Steve Augeri and Arnel Pineda, I still heard people last night muttering, well, he's still not Steve Perry. For a lot of musicians who replace popular band members, they're always like something of an outsider. But right from the moment you officially joined Styx, like 14 years ago, fans have embraced and accepted you. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I guess I think my attitude about joining the band probably contrasts with some people from other bands who really have to fill a role, and I never. From the moment we first spoke on the phone, Tommy and JY and myself, I never felt that this was an assignment to replace anyone in the band. I think that the contributions that have been made to the band by each member along the way, and obviously, the guy who played keyboards and sang before me, Dennis, made a fantastic contribution to the band. Let's face it, and I've never looked upon it as if I could, replace someone in the band. But I did have the confidence, Rustin, that since I'd had multiple platinum records in Canada and had the frustration of never getting my records released in the United States just because of the way that the music industry was structured back then and the way my deal was structured, I had the confidence from playing in all the biggest hockey arenas that Styx played at and headlining them myself as a solo artist that I felt like, well, they've made a good choice for somebody new to join the band, and much like they made a really good choice when they had Tommy Shaw join the band after John Sulewski, and because of that, I guess I don't want to sound immodest, but I just thought, well, I think this can work. I don't have to I don't have to be a sound-alike. I don't have to kind of mimic anything from the past or try to interpret the songs exactly as they were. I just have to sing them as sincerely as I can and hit as many of the right notes as I can come up with per night, and things should be fine, and that's the way it's kind of played out.
Well, and you said a lot of people, because you were from Canada and we didn't get a lot of your music down here, were wholly unaware of the fact that you had your own solo career as Gowan, with some incredible music. You just re-released the 25th anniversary of Strange Animals a couple of years ago, I think it was now.
That was in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys regularly, well, I don't know how regularly because I don't get to see every night, play Criminal, which is one of my favorite songs that you did. Matter of fact, I'd love to see Styx re-record that thing with all of you guys together. But
I would enjoy that very much.
But it's nice. It's nice when we get to hear you play it. But now there has been some rumors floating around for the last couple of years that you're actually perhaps going to record a new solo record. Obviously, Tommy just did his bluegrass thing. Are you considering doing another Gowan record?
We're about halfway through at the moment, doing another Gowan record, and I kind of felt compelled to do it with, as you mentioned, Tommy doing the bluegrass record, The Great Divide, a fantastic record, and these little projects that we do outside the band, in the brief little time that we have off the road, we really. They're important because they help to inform what comes back to the band again and what makes Styx great. Tommy, it's amazing. He was a tremendous guitar player when I joined the band, but after doing that solo record, his guitar playing went to, yet another level because he had to, re-engage himself in a fresh discipline that taught him so much about guitar playing that he did not know. And, returning to recording some of my solo stuff again, now with, after having played all these years of Styx and having, for example, I just did three nights solo just a month ago in Niagara Falls, which is right on the border, with Canada and the U.S. Right. And at least half the crowd that were there were Styx faithful who've come to know my solo stuff over the years, who investigate these things, and so I feel kind of a renewed kind of vigor to come up with something new for them that relates in some way to why I'm in Styx, and so I'm about halfway through at this point.
we're really going to be looking forward to hearing that too, because it's been a long while. But it's also been a long while since we've had original material from Styx. I mean, you guys did the Big Bang Theory in 2005, but your first album with the band, Cyclorama, was almost a decade ago now. And I asked Ricky about this when we talked last year, and he said, because you guys are constantly on the road and everything, you guys haven't gotten to that point yet. But has there been more talk about when we're going to hear new music from Styx?
It's the toughest question to kind of really, deal with, because we all want to take 6 months off and go and make another record. There's a number of levels to why we haven't done that. And the first one being, the most obvious one, is that there's such a demand for the band to play around the world that right now they just don't want to ignore those offers. Like last year we did another full tour of the UK, and we went to Sweden Rock again, and we've been to Japan a couple of times, and we basically there's a demand around the world. And not to mention the fact that I happen to love playing in the United States. So when I see 80 or 90 shows lined up in the U.S. alone a year, and we wind up playing around 110 or so, I'm very happy with that. Now, the corollary to that is that we spend a lot of time in the dressing room, and we bring up all kinds of new material, and we play through things and go, oh, this is going to be great. And we sock it away, and we have the material ready to go. It just means the time commitment and the having the fortitude after playing over 100 shows a year to see it through. So what I think is most likely, Rustin, is that we're going to record songs one at a time now, just like we did with on the first Regeneration album. We included a new song called "Difference in the World,"
right?
And that was a one-off. And we're thinking, that's just not good enough. We should. I mean, it's a great song, and we should add 9 more to it. But I think that was a tremendous exercise. Just doing one song at a time, putting them out, treating it more like we're in the 1950s or 60s, where you had to you had to take your time and make almost make singles, but in our case they wouldn't be singles, it'd be progressive rock Styx songs. could be as long as 8 or 9 minutes, who knows. But like I say, we have the material. The challenge is time, the little bit of time that we have off the road. We like to get back to our relative cities and not have to spend all that time in the studio. So it's a bit of an excuse, but I think it's well overdue that we focus our attention on making another record. However we can do that, we've got to achieve it.
Well, and if you do it one song at a time and everything, this is the digital age now, and a lot of people aren't even buying full albums anymore, which is really sad because I miss those.
Exactly, I know it is a sad thing, but you're absolutely right. People have our attention spans that were short enough to begin with are shorter still, because we have that multitude of choices. And, let's face it, Styx also have such a fantastic legacy of material.
Yeah, exactly.
That when we go out, look at the DVD we just put out this year, the Grand Illusion Pieces of 8 album, back to back, live from a show we did in Memphis,
right,
about a year and a half ago. I mean, that show alone is that contrasts entirely to the regular, big fat rock epic extravaganza that we put on stage every night. So there's that as well now, and there's just such a wealth of material, and the band doesn't have to apologize for that. They work their way to come up with all of that, and I'm very fortunate to be part of it now. And but yeah, I want to make new albums. Well, so let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, as they say, if you don't continue to grow and make new music, create new art,
yep,
eventually you become a parody of yourself, and you're not growing. But you would.
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment entirely. And every band is different. The only caveat to that, as far as Styx goes, is that I've never been involved with a band or with a group of musicians who constantly push themselves to improve their live performance. That in some ways has become, in the past they'd go out because they've got an album to promote, so they'd go out and play that show with that album and try to have that show be as good as it can possibly be. And, obviously they did tremendous things with that. But to play the number of shows we play a year and still be every single night wanting to somehow jump higher with what we're able to achieve on stage, that goes a long way to keeping the band, believe it or not, fresh, because although we're playing the same material, it's another opportunity to get it right in front of an audience that are, many of whom are receiving it for the first time.
Right. And you guys do always sound, that's going back to what I said at the beginning, it's always got that fresh feeling, that energy, the enthusiasm. It's not like you wouldn't think that this was like the 400th show in a row practically that you guys.
Well, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, last night we played, a show that was, under heavy dark cloud. There's about 10,000 people there. There's lightning before we go on. There are dangers involved in playing outdoor shows right now in the summer. I don't have to point out what, some of the things that have happened, but this crowd was so into it. And then when the driving rain started halfway through the show, there was no stopping. There was no, should we get off the stage or any of that? I mean, obviously, if the cops come by and say, that wind is just too high, get the hell out of here, we're probably going to comply. But I looked at just last night alone and how, what the adverse weather conditions and just how the audience didn't care. And so we didn't care, and we just drove on and came off stage feeling like we'd really achieved something, meaningful for our own lives and for them. And so there's something about a rock concert and being able to really be in the moment that makes life pretty spectacular.
Well, yeah, and that's a shared experience that you guys are going to remember as fan and band for a long, long time because it was unique.
Exactly.
And you guys do play everywhere, and that's one of the things that has always impressed me about Styx is that you do play everywhere. You don't skip the less traveled destinations. I've only been here in Boise 3 years. We don't get nearly as many shows as I'm used to in some of the big cities I've lived in, but you guys will be here in Boise on August 24th, and 1 year after you were here with Yes on that massive tour that you guys did. And it's like clockwork. You keep returning to cities like ours that a lot of other bands hit only once or twice a decade. So I want to thank you for that on behalf of Boise and other small towns around the world.
Well, we love playing Boise. I mean, that's one of my favorite towns to walk through. I love walking around that whole downtown area in Boise. Fantastic music store there, a couple of them actually, and I love the vibe of that place. So I look forward to it. I'd feel like I've really missed something if we didn't, try to get back there every year. And yet, incredibly, and this is one of the great things about the United States for this Canadian, is that I'm always amazed at every year there are people who've seen the band in the past who come back perennially, but so many people who've never seen the band before, particularly those who are under 30, and so often they comprise over half the audience that we're playing to every night. And then you look at all the Yes fans last year that we would have played to that had never seen Styx. And I'm, it kind of blows me away just how many new fans and new converts we're able to get to every year simply by doing that, simply by showing up and putting on stage what we do best.
And I don't want to steal you too much longer, but I do have a couple more questions for you. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was, you guys did just release the DVD set Pieces of Eight and Grand Illusion, but those were the first two of Styx's 4 consecutive multi-platinum albums.
Yeah.
One, have you guys talked about doing something similar with Cornerstone and Paradise Theater? And what can we look forward to from you guys on this tour, other than a great set? Are you doing anything specific or special on this year's tour?
Well, first of all, that's a great idea, and that is something we've kicked around. I also happen to really like the Crystal Ball album from top to finish. Even though that wasn't one of the, the big four as you mentioned,
right.
It's a record that continues to it has so many little parts to it that are so strong, and Equinox, which goes back prior to Tommy being in the band. But that's one of his favorite. He brings that record up so often, So Yeah, there's, like I said, there's, as JY, to quote JY, there's an embarrassment of riches when it comes to things for the band to do from the past. This year, what we've, with that in mind, we've added a couple more album tracks, obviously mainly from the Pieces of Eight album and from Grand Illusion album that never really saw the light of day in the past, and we've added those to the show. Number one, and of course we've speaking of Paradise Theater, we decided to put Rock in the Paradise back in, and we haven't played that in over 12 years, and that is just going over tremendously well. It just seems like it's time for people to embrace that song again. So those are some of the newer things that we're doing on this go-round.
Nice. I have to ask, because you were a fan of the band, obviously, before you became somebody that everybody's a fan of in the band. For you, what was your favorite Styx track coming up before you actually joined the band?
It's the same favorite track today for me, and for completely different reasons. But I loved Renegade. I just always loved that song, and anytime it came on the radio, it just had a electrifying energy to it that always grabbed me, always caught my ear, and it's become such a fantastic song to perform live, because although I don't sing lead on that one, I just have to get the harmony parts and that classic setup to the song. The audience around the world, it's amazing what a leveler that song is. By the time we play that song every night, which is right at the end, the audiences are so similar, whether we're playing in Germany, or if we're playing in Louisiana, or if we're playing in Saskatchewan, or Tokyo. I'm amazed at just how the audiences just seem like one massive audience around the world, and that song seems to unite everyone in their devotion for Styx. Probably because where we've placed it, after Come Sail Away and Fooling Yourself and Miss America and
right. Crystal
Ball and those songs. So by the time we get to that really is the moment when I feel like, God, this has been such a worthwhile venture for me, and I'm so lucky to have been part of it.
Absolutely. And great thing to prepare to close on here. For me, there's just so many to love. Come Sail Away was always one of my favorites, but I still get chills every time I hear that opening keyboard for Lorelei. So
isn't that great? I know. I love kicking off that song, every night. Yeah, that is that's a great little hook that opens up that song. It's funny you say that. That's the first Styx song that I remember recognizing in Toronto, and every time it came on the air, I was like, "Oh, who's this?" I know "Lady" was a big hit prior to that, but Lorelei, that's the first one I remember getting. It got saturated airplay, and it just kind of a lot of great vibes around that song.
Absolutely. So, last question then before we get out of here. What is Lawrence Gowan into? What are you passionate about outside of music and family, of course?
Yeah. Boy, that's, it's funny. There used to be more things that I was in the past as far as, there still are. What can I say? I had a fantastic visit to NASA last year, where I got the Primo tour, the tour that most people don't get. Where you get to actually look into the space shuttle and get on it, and go around all throughout the back part of it. That's to me that's the ultimate backstage. Just the experience of that, and what a phenomenal achievement that is. So I'm going to say that's one of the things. I also I love reading. I love. I'm still a gigantic hockey fan, which is required by law for anyone from Canada. And I haven't noticed any hockey games in the Summer Olympics yet. What is going on? Terrible skate. The ice is melted entirely. Anyway, but that's another thing that I'm always very enthusiastic about, and basically doing yoga and enjoying life. I like doing things like as I mentioned before, walking around cities, walking around Boise. Those are things that I really enjoy in life, and they all relate back and inform the musical connection, which to me is at the center of it all. So those are a few of the things.
Nice. So I have to ask that. See, you never want to presume just because somebody's from Canada that they are in fact a hockey fan. But who is your team? Is it the Maple Leafs?
It has to be. Unfortunately, yes. Once again, it's there's something in the water, I suppose, that forces that upon me, and I've had to endure it. I find what's great is in the States, I find there are people of that suffer through a similar malady, like Cubs fans and people like that. And you can't help it. But I do love the playoffs every year. Obviously, I hardly miss it at all. I've converted a lot of the band, because basically I hog the TV on the tour bus after the shows to watch the playoffs, and this year was no exception. And some of your fellas are coming around now.
There you go. Hey, that's how it was for me when the Sharks first came to San Jose. My friend dragged me, and I'm like, oh great, and I'm going to go watch the fights, and what do you know, a hockey game broke out, and I became an instant fan once I saw it live, and I haven't looked back. So, but
we're pretty big sports fans in Styx, I can tell you. It's JY does these NFL predictions, that he's been syndicated on a lot of radio stations doing those, for a number of years now. So he's great at that. Tommy, it was great that this year I told him after the first round in the playoffs that LA were going to win the Stanley Cup, and he got deep into it, and I'm happy that they won. So it's like that. Ricky's a fantastic golfer. Todd loves baseball, and Chuck. Well, Chuck's also a hockey fan because his brother John. Right. I don't know if people know this, but John was a fantastic goalie. Unfortunately, I never got a chance to meet him. But yeah, when I hear about the fact that he played, he was goalie for Notre Dame, and I think he was close to being pro, and then that demon rock and roll took his life over.
See how it is, So yeah. And it's great that Chuck is still able to get out and get in some shows every year with you guys too. So
more and more every year. When his, I can never predict when he's going to be there because he basically calls it within 48 hours of the show if he's feeling up to it and he's got the energy to do it, and more often he does, then he'll be there. So hopefully he'll be in Boise on the 24th of August, and just like the rest of us.
Boy, how awesome would that be? Well, hopefully I'll get a chance to say hello when you guys are here this time, but I'll definitely be at the show snapping photos of you guys.
Good man.
Lawrence Gowan, thanks so much for taking the time. It's always a pleasure to talk to anybody in the band. And we just appreciate that you took the time to bring us up to date on everything that's going on.
Nice talking to you, Rustin, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Take care, brother.